I should never have let her take that doll into the woods. But how was I supposed to know? Children lose things. Toys get left behind. Dolls are forgotten. But Alice was different. She doesn't forgive. She doesn't forget. And now, every night in my dreams, I hear her whisper, voice like cracked porcelain dragged across stone. You took her from me, Maria? And the worst part? She's right. My name is Maria, and my daughter Mara was never like other children. Even as a baby, she was too quiet. She'd lie in her crib, staring at the corners of the room as if waiting for something to step out of the dark. When Mara turned 7, a package arrived. No note, no sender. Just a plain brown box, damp with morning dew. Inside was Alice, a porcelain doll in an old-fashioned blue dress, her curls stiff with age. A velvet ribbon circled her neck like a choker. Her glass eyes didn't shine. They watched. Later that day, my mother called. It's one of your old dolls, she said. I found it in the attic. Give it to Mara, she's so lonely. It'll cure her boredom. My mother adored Mara, but her voice sounded strange, like she was reciting lines. I didn't remember any doll, and neither did my sister, Rachel. Rachel visited the next day. She's a librarian, skeptical, rational, allergic to superstition. But when she saw Alice on Mara's shelf, she froze. Where did you get that? She asked, her voice tight. I told her about Mother's call. Rachel didn't laugh. She leaned closer, studying the doll's dress, the faint stains on its hem. There's something wrong with it, she whispered. Maria, I don't remember Mother having any dolls. Do you? I shook my head. Maybe she kept it secret. Rachel reached for Alice, but Mara screamed, clutching the doll to her chest. She's mine. Rachel left early, muttering, Don't let her sleep with it. She promised to dig through old family records, see if Mother ever mentioned a doll. I wish I'd listened. Mara was obsessed. She fed Alice at dinner, setting out plates of imaginary food. She made space for her in bed, tucking her under the covers. She whispered to her like she could answer. Sometimes I swear she did. Alice moved at night. I'd leave her on the shelf, but by morning she'd be perched on the windowsill, facing the woods. Once I found her in the kitchen sink, soaked and streaked with mud like she'd been outside. I told myself Mara was sleepwalking, playing pranks. Dolls don't move. That spring we picnicked at Thorn Hollow, a forest near town. Twisted oaks, roots like gnarled fingers, air thick with whispers. Mara brought Alice, refusing to go without her. The wind picked up early, leaves hissing secrets. We laughed, ate, played until dusk fell, and we rushed to pack. In the chaos, we left Alice behind. We didn't realize until morning. Mara woke, searched her room, and wailed when I explained. You lost her, she screamed, tears streaking her face. I tried to comfort her, but she pushed me away, curling up on her bed. For days she barely spoke, staring out her window toward the woods. She'd whisper to the empty space beside her, her voice soft and pleading. 2 weeks later, I went to wake Mara for breakfast. Her bed was empty. My heart sank. I searched the house, bathroom, kitchen, backyard. Nothing. My husband, Tom, grabbed the car keys. Thorn Hollow, he said. She's gone for the doll. We tore through town, panic clawing at us. Thorn Hollow loomed, its trees swallowing the light. We searched for hours, calling Mara's name, praying. Finally, we found her, under the same tree where we'd picnicked, curled in a pile of leaves, clutching Alice. The doll was filthy, scratched by brambles, smudged with soot, but intact. Mara was asleep, her lips moving faintly. She belongs to me. We carried her to the car, Alice still in her arms. In the rearview mirror, I swore the doll's eyes followed me. We decided to end it. That night, we took Alice to the fireplace. My hands shook as we set her in the grate, her porcelain face gleaming. This has to stop, Tom whispered. We lit the match and watched flames consume her, reducing her to ash and melted glass. We didn't sleep, expecting Mara to scream. She didn't. By dawn, Mara was herself again. She laughed, ate breakfast, asked to play outside. She never mentioned Alice. I thought it was over, but something lingered. Mara started humming a tune I didn't recognize, her voice too low, too old. She'd pause by mirrors, staring longer than she should. Once, I caught her tracing a finger around her neck, like adjusting an invisible ribbon. Rachel stopped visiting. When she finally called, her voice was raw, like she hadn't slept in days. "Maria, I found something." She dug through town records, old newspapers, anything about Thorn Hollow. Then, in a crumbling archive, she uncovered a photo. Black and white, edges frayed. A family portrait from 1911. "There was a girl," Rachel whispered. "Alice Werner. 7 years old. She went missing in those woods, the day after her birthday." My throat went dry. "How?" "They never found her. Just her favorite doll. A porcelain thing in a blue dress." Pause. "The mother kept it. Said she heard Alice singing through it." The line crackled. "Maria, the doll in that photo? It's wearing a velvet choker." I hung up. That night, I crept into Mara's room. Moonlight caught the ribbon around Alice's neck, too perfectly tied for a child's hands, and I wondered, was the ribbon always there, or did Mara put it on her? But sometimes, when Mara passes a mirror, her reflection lingers a moment too long. Her eyes don't shine. They watch. Alice never left. She just found a better body. Well, I am an average boy who is tired of his life. Name's Jay, so if I talk about my life, then listen. The laughter was a blade, cutting through the college halls with surgical precision. "Freak. Loser. Why don't you just vanish?" The words were a daily ritual, spat by classmates who saw me as prey. Professors ignored the theft of my notes, the dumping of my bag in the trash, their silence as damning as the taunts. I was a ghost, unseen unless they wanted to wound me. For a brief moment, I had a lifeline. Sarah. She was gentle, her kindness a shield against the venom. She'd sit with me, her laughter drowning out their cruelty. But they turned on her too. "You're friends with him?" they sneered. "You'll end up just as pathetic as him." One day she stopped meeting my eyes. Stopped speaking. Stopped existing in my world. Isolation settled over me like a shroud. When the college announced a camping trip to Blackwood Forest, I wanted no part of it. The idea of being trapped with my tormentors in the wilderness was a nightmare. But my little sister Mia pleaded with me. "Please, Jay," she said, her 9-year-old eyes bright with hope. "You never do anything fun. You don't even get out of the house. This is the time to make friends." Mia was my only light after our parents died in a car crash 4 years ago. Her joy was infectious and I couldn't refuse her. So I packed, dread twisting in my gut like a living thing. It was a mistake. The moment we reached Blackwood, the torment began. Snickers followed me through the campsite. Someone shoved me as I pitched my tent, and a rock tore through the canvas, leaving a gaping wound. The forest seemed to watch, its towering pines swallowing the sun, their branches clawing at the sky. I couldn't breathe under the weight of their laughter. Because of all of this, I ran deeper into the woods than I'd ever meant to go, until the voices faded and the world was nothing but shadows. That's when I found it, a rotting wooden box half buried in the damp earth, its surface slick with moss and something darker, like blood long dried. My hands shook as I pried it open, the hinges screaming like a wounded animal. Inside was a doll. Not a toy, but something wrong, something alive in its stillness. Its porcelain skin was too smooth, its black yarn hair matted with dirt. The faded red dress was stained with splotches that looked like rust, and its glass eyes gleamed with a predatory light, sharp and unblinking. The air around it was heavy, thick with the scent of decay, but I couldn't look away. "Mia will love this," I whispered, though the words felt like a lie. I tucked the doll into my bag, its weight unnatural, and stumbled back to camp, a chill seeping into my bones. After that, I returned to my camp in the woods, and somehow that day just passed away. When I came back home, I gave the doll to Mia. Mia was enchanted. She named it Lily and carried it everywhere. Her smile warmed me, and for a moment I thought I'd done something right. But then the strangeness crept in, slow and insidious. At night I wake up for some reason like someone or something is in my room. One morning, I found that doll on the floor, so I thought Mia might have dropped it, so I put it on the shelf. After that, when I checked to see Mia, I was shocked that the doll was there. Mia was playing with it. I rushed back to where I put that doll, but the doll wasn't there. It's not the only strange thing that happened. I remember that one night I had a nightmare. A woman with long, tangled black hair was sleeping beside Mia over Mia's bed, her face hidden in darkness, and a minute later she looked right at me. After witnessing that, I woke up. It was just a dream, I told myself, but the woman's image lingered, her presence a stain on my waking hours. After this dream, I knew that something was wrong with that doll before I could take any action. I said to myself, "Don't worry, it's just a doll." I was also having the tension of college, so I tried to ignore it, but who knew ignoring this might be the biggest mistake of my life. The next day I came home in silence. Mia's usual chatter, her off-key singing, the hum of the TV, all gone. "Mia?" I called, my voice trembling in the stillness. The air was thick, oppressive, like the house was holding its breath. No answer came. Then I saw it, a trail of blood stark against the hardwood floor, snaking toward my sister's room. I quickly rushed to the room, I pushed the door open, and the world broke apart. Mia lay crumpled on the floor, her small body twisted like a discarded doll. Her throat was slashed, a jagged wound that glistened in the dim light, blood pooling beneath her. Her eyes were wide, frozen in terror, her mouth open in a silent scream that echoed in my skull. In her arms, clenched tightly, it was Lily. The doll's glass eyes stared at me, its porcelain lips curled into a smile that wasn't there before, sharp, mocking, alive. I collapsed, my screams tearing through the silence. The police came, their voices cold and clinical. "Suicide," they said, as if a 9-year-old could do such a thing. They didn't feel the wrongness in the room, the way the air pulsed with malice. They didn't see the doll's smile widen as they carried Mia's body away, its eyes following me like a predator sizing up its prey. That night I could not sleep. I sat in Mia's room, staring at that doll that looked like she had murdered my sister. Under her pillow, I found a drawing, its edges crumpled. It was Mia's work, shaky and crude, a woman with long black hair, a knife raised high. Below her, a girl lay in a pool of blood. Above the girl, in Mia's careful scrawl, was a single word, "Me." My blood turned to ice. The doll had done this. I didn't know how, but its truth burned in my veins. I grabbed Lily and drove to Blackwood Forest. Its eyes seemed to follow me in the rearview mirror, glinting with malice. I dug with my bare hands, dirt caking under my nails, until I'd carved a grave deep in the earth. I threw the doll in, burying it beneath layers of soil. "Stay dead," I hissed, my voice raw with rage and grief. As I stood, a whisper slithered through the trees. "Jay." My head snapped up. She was there. The woman from the drawing, from that dream, she was there, her black hair a curtain over her hollow face. Her eyes were voids, endless and hungry, and the knife in her hand gleamed with a sickly light. She moved slowly towards me. When I saw her coming towards me, I knew it, that it was my last day. I shouted in the deep forest, "Why me? Haven't I suffered enough? My life has always been dumb as shit. Why all the bad things come to me? Am I the one who deserves sadness?" The wind howled, carrying the stench of rot. She stepped closer, her blade inches from my throat. For a second I thought death was prettier than this life. I waited for the end, for the pain to claim me. But she stopped. Her head tilted, as if hearing a command I couldn't perceive. In that moment, something inside me shattered. "No," I said, my voice steady despite the terror. "I'm done being afraid." I scrambled to my feet and ran, the forest blurring around me. Her laughter followed, cold and sharp as broken glass, but I didn't look back. That night, Mia came to me in a dream. She stood in a field of wildflowers, her smile soft and sorrowful. "Be strong, Jay," she whispered. "For me." I woke with tears streaming down my face, but a fire had kindled inside me. I wasn't the same broken boy anymore. The bullying didn't stop. The whispers, the shoves, the laughter, they persisted. But I was different. I fought back, my fists clenched with a fury I hadn't known I possessed. I studied harder, earned a scholarship to a better college, and left my tormentors behind. I built a life, piece by painful piece, carrying Mia's memory like a torch. But the doll's memories were inside my head like haunting me forever. I've learned to live with it. Fear is my companion, but it no longer rules me. I keep Mia's drawing in my wallet, a reminder of what I've lost and what I've survived. I don't know if the woman will come for me again, or if the doll's curse will ever fade. But I made a promise to Mia, and I'll keep it. I'm not afraid anymore. Not of the doll. Not of the woman. Not of the darkness that lingers in Blackwood Forest. I faced the abyss and walked away. Whatever comes next, I'll be ready. Lila Carter's addiction started like so many others, innocent at first. A few games after school, some YouTube videos before bed. But by her 11th birthday, the iPad had become her entire world. Her parents, Sarah and Mark, watched helplessly as their once vibrant daughter transformed into a hollow-eyed zombie who recoiled from human touch. Sarah had tried everything. Parental controls, therapy, even hiding the damn device. Nothing worked. Until the afternoon she stumbled upon the toy store. The shop appeared suddenly on a street Sarah didn't recognize, squeezed between a boarded-up pharmacy and an empty lot. The sign simply read "Toys" in peeling red letters. A bell jingled as she entered, the scent of old wood and something faintly sweet, like rotting fruit, making her nose wrinkle. Looking for something special? Sarah jumped. The old woman behind the counter hadn't been there a moment ago. Her yellowed fingernails tapped against a glass case containing antique dolls with cracked porcelain faces. Sarah explained through gritted teeth, the screen addiction, the failing grades, how her daughter hadn't initiated a hug in months. The shopkeeper's milky eyes gleamed. Without a word, she disappeared into the back room and returned with a wooden box carved with children holding hands, their faces worn smooth by time. "This one is particular," she whispered as the hinges creaked open. "Emily chooses her children carefully." The doll took Sarah's breath away. Flawless porcelain skin. Cornflower blue eyes that seemed to track movement. Blonde curls tied with a ribbon that might have once been pink. Sarah hesitated. There was something unsettling about how perfect it was. $20, the woman said, her cracked lips stretching into a smile. "But be warned, once loved, Emily never lets go." Lila's reaction was predictably dismissive. "A doll? Seriously?" She tossed Emily onto her dresser, where the doll's glass eyes reflected the iPad's glow all night. At 3:17 a.m., Sarah woke to whispering from Lila's room. Not the usual video chatter, but actual conversation. She crept down the hall to find Lila sitting up in bed, Emily cradled in her arms. "She's so cold," Lila murmured without looking up. "She likes when I tell her stories." The iPad sat dark on the nightstand, its screen blank for the first time in months. For 3 glorious days, Lila was herself again, laughing at breakfast, drawing pictures after school, even asking to help with dinner. Sarah chose not to question how Emily's position changed when no one was looking. Didn't mention finding blonde hairs too coarse to be Lila's on the pillowcase. Then came the school camping trip. "Please, Mom. Emily's never seen the woods." The doll sat primly in Lila's backpack as Sarah dropped her off at school. She didn't notice Tyler Jenkins, the class bully, watching as Lila carefully secured Emily in her tent that evening. "Check out the baby's doll." Tyler snatched Emily during dinner, holding her high as Lila screamed. A scuffle. A terrible arc through the firelight. Emily landed in the campfire. Lila's shriek pierced the night as porcelain blackened and cracked. Teachers pulled her back as the doll's hair sizzled away to nothing. That night, Lila dreamed of standing in the woods. The stench of burning hair filled her nose. Between the trees, something moved. Emily stood watching, her skin charred, one glass eye missing. The remains of her dress smoldered. "You let them hurt me," the doll whispered. Lila woke with a gasp. Her pillow was damp, not just with tears, but with strands of blonde hair too coarse to be hers. She dug for hours. Dirt packed under her nails, blood mingling with soil. Until Emily lay pristine in the earth. No burns, no damage. Only her eyes were darker now, the blue nearly black. "I'm sorry," Lila sobbed, cradling the doll. "I'll never leave you again." Something in the doll's smile looked sharper. The knocking started at 3:17 a.m. Sarah threw Emily into the river, drove 30 miles to the deepest part of the current, watched the dark water swallow the doll whole. When she returned home, Emily sat on the kitchen table, dripping. The crash shook the house. Mark ran downstairs to find the front door hanging by one hinge. Bloody handprints, small, child-sized, led across the hardwood floor. "Sarah, take Lila and dash." His scream ended with a wet crunch. Sarah shoved Lila into the closet. "Don't make a sound." Footsteps on the stairs. Too light to be Mark's. The bedroom door creaked open. Silence. Then right outside the closet. "Found you." The voice wasn't Lila's. The doorknob turned. Police found the house at dawn. Mark lay in the foyer, his facial features rearranged like wet clay. Sarah sat rocking in the master bedroom, repeating the same phrase. She just wanted to play. Of Lila there was no sign. The case was closed within a month. No leads. No suspects. Just another tragic missing child report. Sarah moved across the country. Changed her name. But every night at 3:17 a.m. she'd wake to the same sound. Tuh, 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 at her bedroom window. And sometimes, if she listened very closely, she could hear two voices whispering together out in the dark. One sounded like Lila. The other sounded like something that had forgotten how to sound human. Meanwhile, in cities across America, parents desperate to break their children's screen addiction kept reporting the same thing. A beautiful porcelain doll appearing on their doorstep. Blonde curls, cornflower blue eyes, and a little red ribbon around her neck. Me and Rick had been close friends since college started. We'd hang out after classes, mess around with games, especially horror ones. So, when Rick told me one day that he got a job working the night shift at the local superstore, I was curious. He said he needed the money, and honestly, I did too. There was this new Resident Evil 4 remake coming out soon. I played the original back in 2005 on my cousin's GameCube, and I was dying to get my hands on the remake. Only problem was the price. $39.99 felt like a lot when you're broke. So, when Rick mentioned the pay, $3,000 a month, I made up my mind right there. A couple days later, I asked him, "Hey Rick, what if I joined you at the store? I could use the extra money." Rick looked relieved. "Man, that'd be awesome. I've been alone there since Jerry left. He quit out of nowhere, didn't even say why. It's kind of boring without someone to talk to. It would be great if you joined." So, after classes that day, we went to the superstore together. We met the manager, a grumpy guy who barely looked up. "You want the night shift too? Fine. Be here tomorrow night. Don't screw anything up." Just like that, I was hired. The first month went by smooth. We stocked shelves, took inventory, and handled the occasional late-night customer. Most nights, it was dead quiet. Rick and I just sat at the counter, scrolling Instagram, laughing at memes, or making bets on how fast we could organize certain aisles. The job wasn't hard. Kinda spooky sometimes, those long empty aisles, flickering lights, and the weird humming from the freezers, but nothing we couldn't handle. I got used to it pretty fast. But things started to change the second month. That's when the nightmare began. It was around 3 a.m. when a guy walked into the store. He wore a black hoodie, face hidden under the cap, and didn't say a word. Just grabbed a cart, picked up a few items, snacks, groceries, and paid in wrinkled bills. When he left, we noticed he'd left something behind. There was a doll in the cart. It wasn't anything too creepy, Just a regular-looking doll in a cloth dress with black button eyes. But something about it felt off. Like it was too quiet. Too still. Maybe he'll come back for it, I said, placing it under the counter. But he didn't. When our shift ended, I told the manager about it. He barely reacted. Just leave it under the register. If he doesn't show up, maybe someone else will buy it. Sounded simple enough. But the next night things got weird. Rick and I had just finished restocking aisle 12 when we returned to the counter and saw the doll, sitting on top of it. Bro, did you put that there? I asked, feeling a chill. Rick looked confused. Nah man. I didn't even touch it. We put it back under the counter. But the next night, same thing, the doll was back on the counter. This time its head was tilted slightly like it was watching us. We tried moving it to the break room. The next night, it was on the toy shelf, sitting beside other dolls like it belonged there. We started joking that the doll had a mind of its own. But deep down we weren't laughing. When we told the manager about the doll moving on its own, he barely looked up from his clipboard. Then leave it in the toy section. If someone buys it, good. But don't move it again. I frowned. Shouldn't we check the security footage? See if someone's messing with us? He snorted. Those cameras? Corporate cheaped out. Just plastic shells with blinking lights. Rick and I exchanged a glance. That explained why Jerry's disappearance last month never got investigated. Rick and I looked at each other and decided to press a little further. We talked to the manager about the doll's abnormal behavior. He scoffed. You guys are insane. Really? You think a doll can move by itself? Very funny. I know someone might have placed it. After hearing the manager, I was thinking that he might have placed the doll on the shelf himself. Because he's crazy or something. Whatever. Fine. We did what he said. Left it in the toy aisle, right next to a cheap Barbie knockoff. But I couldn't stop checking on it. Every time I passed that aisle, I felt like its eyes followed me. Rick even admitted once, I swear it was in a different position yesterday. We both felt like the doll wanted to be noticed. Then came that night. Around 2 a.m. I saw a shadow outside the store. The automatic doors slid open, and in came the same guy from before. Black hoodie. Same weird energy. But this time there was something darker in his eyes. He walked straight to the counter and leaned in close. Where is it? He asked. Do you guys know about a doll? I left it here last time I came. Rick and I exchanged glances. Rick, trying to keep it casual, said, Sorry bro, we thought you weren't coming back. Someone might have just moved it to the toy section. The guy didn't say anything at first. He just stood there completely still. His breathing got heavier. And then, silence. A long eerie pause. It was like he was thinking about something, figuring something out. Then he whispered, You shouldn't have done that. Before I could move, he grabbed me by the collar and slammed me into the counter. It's mine, he screamed, punching me hard in the face. Everything spun. My head hit the floor. I felt him over me, fists flying. Then, thump. A heavy sound, then silence. Rick had hit him over the head with a fire extinguisher. The guy collapsed, motionless. We stared at him, terrified. What if he's dead? I asked, my jaw aching. Rick checked. He was still breathing. We didn't know what else to do, so we dragged him to the employee bathroom and locked the door. But when we went to check on him minutes later, the door was wide open. He was gone. Grabbing the nearest thing, Rick with a flashlight, me with a broom, we split up to search the store. My hands were shaking. Every shadow felt alive. Then I heard it, Rick screaming. I ran to the toy aisle and saw Rick on the ground, bleeding. The man stood over him, a knife in hand. I charged. We struggled. He was strong, stronger than I expected, and he pinned me down. The knife came close to my face. I was about to give up when, crack, he fell. Rick stood behind him, arms soaked in blood, holding a broken shelf bracket like a weapon. You're alive? I gasped. Yeah, he slashed my arm. Not my stomach. He held up his cut forearm, grinning weakly. We tied the guy up with tape and called the police. When the cops arrived, they arrested him and started asking us questions. One officer raised an eyebrow. So, you're saying he just went berserk and attacked you over a doll? He asked. Sounds fake to me. A grown man obsessed with a doll? That's a new one." After some weird questions, the police went away. I remember thinking, why didn't we just call them when he was knocked out the first time? Rick might not have gotten hurt. We could have avoided all of this. But honestly, I couldn't care less. We didn't even tell them about the doll. The manager gave us a week off. Rick's arm healed up fine, but we were both shaken. We still didn't understand why that guy lost it over the doll. Then, a few nights later, we saw a news report. A man broke into a house and murdered an entire family, the reporter said. Only the youngest child survived. According to the child, the man kept asking, "Where's my doll?" Rick and I just stared at each other. It was him. No doubt about it. He'd escaped. Yeah. And the doll? It was gone. We quit the next day. No 2 weeks notice. We didn't even collect our last paycheck. Because we knew he'd be back. And we didn't want to be there when he came looking. My name's Ada Graves. I'm 19, a college student just trying to survive. Nothing special about me, just a girl chasing a normal life. But normal? It's a lie when the world's got its boot on your throat. I was broke, scraping by on fumes. My boyfriend, Ralph, had been my lifeline, paying for meals, covering small bills, but then he vanished from my life. No warning, no explanation, just gone. I had this gnawing feeling his friend Rick was behind it. Maybe he fed Ralph lies about me, or stirred up some kind of poison. Either way, I was alone, penniless, desperate. So I started hunting for jobs. ZipRecruiter, Craigslist, anything with an apply button. I even considered a night shift at a superstore. $3,000 a month. Sounded like a dream. Until I remembered the news. A man arrested for attacking that exact store at 2 a.m. Blood on the pavement. Shattered glass. Yeah, no thanks. The next morning, I was at college, spilling my guts to my friend Ava over coffee. She smirked, swirling her cup. "You're not built for gritty jobs, Ada. Try something soft, like babysitting." Babysitting? Sounded easy. Say, that afternoon, I scoured online listings. Most offered pocket change, $100 a night, maybe less. Not worth the hassle. But the next morning, an email landed in my inbox. I froze. "We need a babysitter. She misses you. $500 per night. Immediate start. Address attached." The sender? Just one word. Lucas. My stomach twisted. I hadn't applied for any babysitting gigs. How did they have my email? How did they know my name? But $500 a night? That kind of money could fix everything. So I went. The house sat at the edge of town, a quiet, gray Victorian with tall, narrow windows. The kind of place that looks wrong in the daylight. Sophia greeted me at the door, a woman in her 30s, warm smile, soft voice. Her son, Lucas, clung to her leg, a pale boy with dark, unblinking eyes. She laid out the rules: feed Lucas lunch and dinner, keep him inside, and one thing above all else, don't go into the attic. Her voice sharpened. It's private, off limits. You understand? I nodded. Yeah, I get it. But as I left, a question clawed at me. How did she know I was looking for work? And who was she that missed me? I pushed it down. The money was too good. What could go wrong? The next morning, I arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. Sophia was already halfway out the door, heels in one hand, phone pressed to her ear. Noon and 6 for meals, keep him indoors, and the attic. She paused, staring right through me. Don't touch that door. Then she was gone. Lucas stood in the hallway, silent, clutching a stuffed bear with one eye missing. Its remaining button eye dangled by a thread. "Hi, Lucas," I said, forcing a smile. He didn't blink, didn't speak, just stared. The day dragged on. Lucas barely moved, playing with his toys in the corner, always watching me from the edge of his vision. But what really got under my skin were his drawings. I found them on the kitchen table, crayon sketches of the house. Every single one showed the attic door. And in every picture, A faceless figure stood beside it. Tall, shadowy, sometimes holding Lucas's hand. My skin prickled. That night as I cleaned up, I noticed something else. The attic door was open, just a crack. I know I didn't touch it. Sophia's warning echoed in my head. I crept closer, heart pounding, and pushed it shut. The click of the latch felt too loud in the silent house. I walked away, pretending I hadn't seen it. The next day I tried to make small talk with Sophia. "What do you do for work?" I asked casual as I could. Her smile vanished, like I'd flipped a switch. "Focus on your job, Ada," she said, her voice low and cold. "Some things aren't meant to be questioned." She turned away, muttering something under her breath. I caught one word: careful. That night I heard whispering. It was coming from the living room. I peeked around the corner. Lucas sat on the floor, alone. Or not alone. Across from him on the couch was a doll. Porcelain, cracked, with a single glass eye and a stitched-on smile that looked wrong. It hadn't been there before. Lucas leaned in close, whispering, "She doesn't like her." Then louder, like he knew I was listening, "She'll be angry if you go to the attic." I backed away, my pulse hammering. The next morning I saw something that made my blood run cold. Lucas was outside, in the backyard, standing still, staring up at the attic window. His small frame was unnaturally rigid, like he wasn't himself. I ran to the back door, ready to call him in, but when I checked his room, he was there, sitting on his bed, playing with his toys. The door was locked from the inside. How? That night I couldn't shake the image. I kept checking the windows, the doors. Every creak in the house felt like a warning. Around midnight I heard it again, whispering. This time it was coming from upstairs. I followed the sound, step by step, until I stood in front of the attic door. It was open again, and Lucas was walking toward it. "Lucas," I hissed, keeping my voice low. He didn't turn. He didn't stop. He climbed the stairs, disappearing into the dark. I hesitated, Sophia's words ringing in my ears, but I couldn't leave him up there. I followed. The attic was cold, the air thick with dust and something sour like old metal. Old toys and broken boxes cluttered the floor. But Lucas, he wasn't there. No one was, except the doll. It sat on a rocking chair in the corner, its glass eye glinting in the dim light. It was facing me. I swear, it hadn't been like that when I walked in. I took a step back. The floor creaked, and the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, grabbing the knob. It wouldn't budge. My chest tightened. I was trapped. The air grew colder, heavier, like something was pressing down on me. My vision blurred. My legs felt like they were sinking into the floor. And then, the doll fell. It hit the ground with a dull crack, and blood, real blood, started seeping from its mouth. It pooled on the floor, thick, dark. The smell hit me, metallic, rotten. I screamed, backed into the wall. No, no, no. I clawed at the door, tears streaming down my face. And then, it opened. Sophia stood there, her face pale, her eyes burning with fury. "I told you," she hissed. "Never go up there." I was looking for Lucas," I stammered. "He went up, I saw him." "No one goes in the attic," she snapped. "Not even him." Her voice cracked, like she was hiding something. I stumbled past her, grabbing my bag. But as I passed Lucas's room, I froze. He was sitting on his bed, the doll cradled in his lap, both of them, smiling. His eyes weren't a child's anymore. They were old, ancient, like something was looking through him. I ran, got in a cab, went home, never looked back. Weeks passed. I found a new job, day shift at a cafe. Bright lights, normal people, no addicts. Life started to feel safe until an email. "Hi Ada, we need a babysitter again. She misses you." The sender, Lucas. My hand shook as I hit delete, but it didn't matter. Sometimes I hear whispering too, a child's voice. "She misses you." And last night, I found a drawing in my old bag that I used it when I was working in Miss Sophia's house. I live alone, It was a crayon sketch of an attic door and a faceless figure holding my hand. I've been a cop for 4 years, patrolling the streets of this quiet town, doing my job without much fuss. Name's Felix Corvin, and I thought I'd seen it all, until the case that changed everything. It was a slow shift at the precinct when Lieutenant Harper called me into his office. His face was grim, not his usual gruff self. "Felix, I've got a case for you," he said, sliding a file across his desk. "An old house on the edge of town. People go in, they don't come out. 6 missing, 3 bodies found. You and Travis Grayson are on this." I frowned. "Why not the detectives, sir?" He leaned forward, eyes locked on mine. "You're the sharpest we've got, Corvin. I trust your experience." His words stirred something uneasy in me, but I nodded. Travis and I had worked cases before. We'd handle this. The file was a nightmare. 6 people vanished, 3 corpses recovered, and despite police searches, no leads. The house was a rotting husk in a forgotten corner of town, its windows like dark, watchful eyes. Travis skimmed the file, his brow furrowed. "Serial killer hiding out there, you think?" My gut twisted. "Maybe. Whatever's in that house, it's not right." He grinned, trying to shake off the tension. "We'll check it tomorrow morning, yeah?" "Morning?" I shot back, half joking. "You scared of the dark, Grayson?" His eyes gleamed with a challenge. "You're the one who's spooked. I dare you, let's go tonight." Pride got the better of me. "Fine." Midnight. At 2 a.m., we pulled up to the house, the moonlight casting eerie shadows across its crumbling walls. My pistol was heavy at my hip, flashlight in hand, but my heart was already racing. The front door was locked, rusted shut. Breaking it down might tip off anyone inside, so we circled around and found a basement door, slightly open, creaking in the breeze. The basement hit me like a punch, a rancid stench of decay and damp. My flashlight caught cobwebs, rotting beams, piles of trash. We moved quietly, every creak underfoot making my pulse spike. Travis whispered, "Felix, I got a bad feeling about this place." I forced a smirk. "Regretting your dare? Already?" He didn't answer, his eyes darting nervously. In the corner, I spotted a smear of dried blood on the floor, and my stomach lurched. We searched the ground floor. Empty rooms, broken furniture, no signs of life. The second floor was our last stop. The staircase groaned as we climbed, each step tightening the knot in my chest. At the top, we split up. "Check that room," I told Travis, pointing left. I headed for the kitchen. It was a wreck, grime-coated counters, the air thick with mold. No one had lived here in years, I thought. Then a scream tore through the silence. I sprinted toward it, heart hammering, and found Travis sprawled in a bedroom, out cold. I knelt to check him, but before I could process it, something slammed into the back of my head. Everything went dark. When I came to, my skull throbbed, and my wrists burned against rough rope tying me to a steel beam. Travis was bound beside me, still unconscious. The room was lit by a flickering bulb, shadows dancing like specters on the walls. Footsteps echoed closer, slow and heavy. A man stepped into the light, if you could call him that. His face was a nightmare, skin sallow and stretched tight, eyes burning with madness. In his hands he clutched a doll, its porcelain face cracked. One glass eye missing. My blood ran cold. "You disturbed us," he rasped, his voice like nails on a chalkboard. "You and your friend, barging into our home. Annie doesn't like that." He lifted the doll, stroking its matted hair. "What should we do with them?" "Annie?" I swear that doll's empty eye glinted, like it was staring right through me. The man nodded as if it had answered, then shuffled out. My heart pounded as I twisted my wrists, fraying the ropes until they gave way. I slipped free and ducked behind the door, waiting, but he didn't come back. A faint sound drew me to a window. In the backyard, under the moon's pale glow, the man was digging a hole, the doll propped beside him. I knew that grave was meant for us. My pistol was gone, ammo stripped, but I had my pocket knife. I crept downstairs, planning to end this. I tossed a can into an empty room, the clatter echoing. The man took the bait, stomping inside with a massive axe. I lunged from behind, but he turned, impossibly fast. We grappled, his axe swinging inches from my face. With a desperate thrust, I sank my knife into his stomach. He gasped, collapsing, blood pooling around him. His final words chilled me to the bone. "Annie will take my revenge." Shaking, I untied Travis and dragged him to the car. He was barely conscious, head bloodied from a blow. I radioed for backup, then returned as dawn broke. The police swarmed the house, pulling the man's body and 6 others, the missing persons, from the hole he'd dug. I asked about the doll, but the officers shook their heads. "No doll, Corvin." That night I couldn't sleep. "Annie will take my revenge" echoed in my head, a relentless whisper. A week later, I visited Travis in the hospital. He looked like a ghost. "Felix," he croaked, "I keep dreaming about a doll. Her name's Annie." My heart stopped. I hadn't told him about the doll, or the man's dying words. That phrase burrowed deeper, a constant haunt. Annie is coming. Annie will take her revenge. I was just a normal high school girl. You know, homework, hanging out with friends, stressing about grades. Nothing crazy ever happened to me. Then came my 17th birthday. I decided to throw a small party at my house. Just a few close friends, Lily, Megan, Kyle, and Ava. We decorated the living room with streamers, balloons, and fairy lights. My parents stayed upstairs to give us space. Everything felt perfect. Say, familiar. After cake and games, it was time for presents. I opened Lily's first, a hoodie from my favorite band. Then Megan's, a cute makeup set. Kyle gave me a gift card, typical of him. And then there was Ava's present. It was a box wrapped in black paper with no card. When I opened it, I found a doll inside. It wasn't the kind of cheap plastic doll you see at the store. It was fancy. The doll wore a red velvet dress, and its glassy green eyes seemed to sparkle in the light. Its hair was a deep black, so shiny it almost looked wet. At first, I didn't like it. Dolls had always freaked me out a little. Something about the way they stare, how lifeless yet real they seem. I forced a smile and said, "Thanks, Ava," before setting it aside. She just smiled weirdly and said, "She's special. You'll love her soon." The party ended late. I cleaned up, then dragged myself upstairs to my bedroom. The doll sat in the corner where I had tossed it. I swear as I turned off the lights, I thought its head shifted slightly toward me. I laughed it off. I was tired. Probably imagining things. That night I had the worst dreams. Dreams of whispers, of someone, something, breathing right by my ear. At one point, I jolted awake and saw the silhouette of the doll sitting on my desk, even though I had left it on the dresser. I told myself maybe I had moved it and forgot. The next morning, strange things started happening. I found muddy footprints in my room. Small like a child's. Items on my shelves were knocked over. And I kept hearing faint giggles, especially at night. Still, somehow, I started liking the doll. There was something comforting about her being there. I started talking to her without realizing it, telling her about my day, my problems. It felt natural, like talking to an old friend. But the more attached I got, the worse the nightmares became. One night, I woke up to find her standing at the foot of my bed. I know how insane that sounds, but she wasn't sitting, she was standing. Perfectly balanced, her glass eyes locked onto mine. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She opened her mouth. It stretched unnaturally wide, too wide, and in a child's voice she whispered, "Mine." The next morning I had scratches on my arms. Deep ones like nails had raked across my skin. I finally tried to get rid of her. I threw the doll into the trash outside as far from the house as I could. But when I came back to my room, there she was, sitting on my bed, smiling wider than before. Desperate, I called Ava. I demanded to know where she got the doll. She was quiet for a long time before she said, "It was meant for you. She chooses who she loves." "What do you mean loves?" Ava laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "You'll see. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll just become part of her." I realized then, I had to give the doll away. Not throw it away, give it. like a real gift. The next day after school, I wandered downtown with the doll wrapped up in a cloth. My heart raced with every step. I felt like the doll's tiny hands would claw through the cloth and grab me at any second. Then I saw him, an old beggar sitting near the corner store, someone I'd seen for years but never really noticed. He had a cardboard sign that just said, "Anything helps." I walked up to him, shaking. "Here," I said, pushing the wrapped doll into his hands. "A gift." The old man looked surprised, then smiled warmly. "Thank you, dear." I didn't wait. I ran. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. No whispers. No nightmares. When I woke up, my arms were clean, no more scratches. I felt free. But I needed answers. I confronted Ava the next day after school. I cornered her behind the gym and asked, "Why did you give me that doll?" She looked guilty. Nervous. "I had to," she said quietly. I was trapped. Just like you." "What do you mean?" I demanded. Ava looked down at her shoes. "Someone gave it to me on my birthday. A friend. She told me the same thing, that it was special." I didn't understand at first. Then the nightmare started. The scratches. The voices. She looked up at me, eyes wide and hollow. I thought, maybe if I gave it away I could be free. So I gave it to you. My mouth went dry. Where did she get it? Ava just shook her head. She never said. But I think it's a cycle. I think it's been going on for a long time. Neither of us said anything for a while. The next time I passed the corner where the beggar sat, he was gone. His cardboard sign, his blankets, everything gone without a trace. When I asked around, no one even remembered seeing anyone there in the first place. Even now, months later, that corner stays empty. But sometimes when I walk past it alone at night, I swear I hear faint childlike giggles drifting from the shadows. And every so often, I feel tiny invisible hands brush against my back. I never expected to order something like this. It was a random, sleepless night when I was scrolling through my feed, half-heartedly looking for something to pass the time. And then an ad caught my eye. It was an odd one, almost too good to be true. Upload your selfie, we'll turn it into a custom doll, handcrafted to look exactly like you. Limited time offer. Free trial. I was skeptical at first, but it seemed harmless enough, right? I thought it might be a joke or some cheap novelty. The idea of having a doll that looked just like me? Kind of funny, honestly. So, on impulse, I uploaded a random picture. Just a selfie I had taken earlier that day, nothing special. I didn't give it much thought after that. It was late and I quickly closed the app, heading to bed. The whole thing slipped from my mind like so many things do. A week later, I was sitting on the couch when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting any packages. But when I opened the door, there it was, a plain box, no return address. Just my name scribbled on the side in neat block letters. I was curious, but honestly, I wasn't expecting much. I opened it with little excitement. Just a cheap doll, I figured. But when I saw it, I froze. It was a 2-foot-tall figure, its body dressed in what looked like hand-sewn clothes. But the face, it was my face. Not a generic doll face. Not something close to it. It was my face. Every detail, from the slight scar on my chin to the way my eyes naturally tilted upward at the corners. The doll even had my messy hair and my exact expression, frozen into a smile. I felt a strange chill, something I couldn't quite place. I didn't know whether to laugh or feel creeped out. But I did the only thing I could think of. I set it on the shelf in my living room as if to pretend it wasn't there. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought I saw a faint red light coming from the corner of the room. I shook it off. It was probably just the light from the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds, casting strange shadows. I turned over and fell asleep. The next night it happened again. I woke up and there it was, a faint red glow coming from the doll. The light shone from its eyes, glowing eerily in the dark. My heart raced and I sat up, blinking hard to clear my mind. I must have been dreaming, right? Maybe it was a feature, some weird LED thing hidden inside its head. I got up and flicked on the light. The glow disappeared immediately. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a special effect the manufacturer had built in. Some silly gimmick. It didn't make sense, but I couldn't come up with any other explanation. But as the nights wore on, things got worse. The doll started moving. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I had just set it down wrong. But then, one morning, I woke up to find it standing by my bedroom door, staring at me. Its eyes glowed red in the dark, and now they seemed to burn even brighter. My pulse quickened. No, this was impossible. The doll couldn't move. It was just a toy. But every night after that, I would wake up to find it in different places. Sometimes it was sitting at the foot of my bed. Sometimes it was on the couch. Once I even found it in the bed with me, its cold porcelain face inches from mine, its glowing eyes staring straight at me. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the doll and threw it in the trash. I locked the door and tried to sleep, my heart pounding in my chest. That night, for the first time in a week, I slept deeply, uninterrupted. I woke up the next morning relieved, but then my stomach dropped. The doll was back. It was sitting on the couch, its eyes glowing again just like the first time. It was almost as if it had never left. Panic gripped me. I tried everything after that. I threw the doll away over and over. I burned it, smashed it with a hammer. Each time it would return, always intact, always the same. The eyes still glowed red and unblinking. I had to know. I couldn't live like this, not anymore. The fear was eating me alive. I waited until the dead of night. My hands were shaking as I approached the doll. I was desperate to find an explanation. I tore its clothes off, ripped its head open. There was nothing. No wires. No circuits. No batteries. Just wool. Soft stuffing and cotton. The inside of the doll was empty, except for the soft, padding material that made it look real. It wasn't a haunted doll, wasn't some piece of advanced tech. It was just a doll. A stupid, creepy doll made of fabric and wool. I looked at it, confused and shaken. If it wasn't some kind of trick, what was it? How could it be alive? I thought maybe I had just lost my mind. Maybe it was all in my head. That night, I slept for hours without waking. No strange sounds, no movement, no glowing eyes. But when I woke up, something was different. There, in the corner of the room, I saw it. A faint red glow flickering, barely visible through the cracks in the wall. My heart thudded in my chest as I sat up in bed. It was coming from behind the walls, that same red light, as though something was trying to break through. I didn't know if I was imagining it or if it was real. But that light, it was unmistakable. I stared at the crack for what felt like hours. The light flickered, then dimmed. It was gone, or so I thought. But the fear remained. And every night after, whenever the lights went out, I felt it. The sense of being watched. The glow would return, just faint enough that I could never be sure if it was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. The doll was gone. But the red light never really left. And now, sometimes when I turn off the lights, I still see it. In the corner of my room, just out of reach. A soft glowing red. Was the doll ever really gone? Or was it still here, somewhere waiting in the dark? I've owned an antique shop for years. The kind of place where the air smells like dust and old wood, where everything has a story even if no one knows it. People don't always realize the value in these items, the kind of forgotten things that hold secrets of their own. I've always been able to sense things about the objects I buy. Whether they were once owned by someone good or bad, whether they held memories of sorrow or joy. But I never imagined that one day something would slip through my fingers. Something that would linger, haunting me. It started with her. A woman mid-40s with a tired look about her. She entered my shop one afternoon, her hand gripping a large, dusty cloth-covered bundle. She had the air of someone burdened with something heavy, though she kept her voice steady. "You interested in antiques?" she asked, almost as if it were a question that carried more weight than I realized. I glanced at the bundle she had brought. "Sure. What have you got?" She slowly pulled the cloth back, revealing a doll. At first, I wasn't sure what to make of it. It was porcelain, fragile and elegant, but its eyes, those eyes, were too lifelike, too knowing. They seemed to follow me as I circled around it, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just an object. "Is it for sale?" I asked, masking my unease. "It's an antique," she replied, her tone barely above a whisper. "Over 180 years old. Rare. Very rare." I didn't know much about dolls, but I knew enough to see the potential in something like this. The price tag would be hefty, but I could flip it for a decent profit. So, despite my gut telling me not to, I agreed to buy it. "Sure. I'll take it." She handed it to me with a strange, knowing smile. As I held the doll, I couldn't help but notice how cold it felt against my palm. It wasn't the cool porcelain you'd expect. It was as if it was alive and yet dead. When I brought the doll into my shop, I wasn't expecting much. I placed it on a shelf among other antiques. But as soon as it touched the wood, something changed. The air seemed to thicken. The shop, which had always felt familiar, suddenly felt wrong, like something in the space had shifted, like an intruder had crossed into the room. The lights above flickered, and a small tremor ran through the floorboards. I paused, my heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. I told myself it was just the old wiring. The building had a way of reacting to changes, but this was different. I tried to ignore it. I went back to sorting through boxes of old records and trinkets, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the doll was watching me, following me. That evening, the shop felt colder than it ever had. The type of cold that seeps into your bones even though the heat was on. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to deepen, and I began to notice things I hadn't before. The old clocks on the wall, their ticking now sounded off-key, distorted. The portraits seemed to shift with every glance. I convinced myself I was just tired, running on too many late nights, but I knew something had happened when that doll came in. The next morning, as I walked into the shop, I was greeted by my neighbor, an old man who lived next door. He'd lived in this neighborhood longer than anyone. If there was one person who knew every little thing that happened here, it was him. "Morning," he said, a faint shiver in his voice. "You didn't hear anything last night, did you?" I furrowed my brow, trying to remember the night before. The doll's presence had clouded my mind. "What do you mean?" He leaned in closer. Around 2 a.m. I heard it again, the laughing. It was like a whole crowd in your shop, but I didn't see anyone. Just laughing and talking. Like a bunch of people were there, and I couldn't even tell if they were human. I froze. A chill crept up my spine, and for a moment, the weight of the air in the shop seemed to press down harder. I glanced at the doll, its porcelain face staring back at me, empty but somehow full of meaning. It hit me all at once. The doll. It was the reason for everything. The laugh, the cold, the unnatural shift in the air. It wasn't just a doll. It was something else. I'd made a mistake. The days that followed were a blur of strange occurrences. Every night, the laughter grew louder. It wasn't just the occasional snicker or chuckle, but a constant cacophony filling the shop, making my skin crawl. I couldn't escape it. Even when I went home, it felt like the laughter followed me, echoing through my dreams until I woke up with the doll's face burned into my mind. I tried to ignore it, but it only made it worse. The doll was starting to feel like it was more than just an inanimate object. It was alive, and it was waiting. One night, I stayed late at the shop trying to finish some paperwork. I sat at my desk, pen in hand, but I couldn't focus. The shadows in the room were so thick, it felt like the walls were closing in. Then I heard it. The first laugh, soft, almost like a whisper. I stood up, heart hammering. The shop was empty, and yet it felt crowded. The air seemed heavy, as if the room was filled with invisible people. I slowly walked to the shelf where the doll sat. And there, in the dim light, its eyes gleamed. Red. The realization hit me like a slap. I didn't just have a haunted doll in my store. I had a curse. And the laughter was part of it. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stay in that shop another night with that doll's cursed gaze following me. I knew I had to get rid of it. I grabbed the doll and wrapped it in a thick cloth, not bothering to look at it again. The doll's presence had tainted everything in the shop. The clocks, the paintings, the furniture, they all felt wrong. But it was the doll that had triggered it all. It had infected everything. I drove to a part of town I'd never dared visit before, a place known for dealing in the occult, where people spoke in hushed tones. There, I found a small, dimly lit shop with dark wood and strange incense filling the air. The shopkeeper was a man whose gaze didn't meet mine. He looked like he had been waiting for me. I need to get rid of this, I said, my voice trembling. It's haunted. It's destroying everything. He glanced at the doll, and a strange, almost pleased expression crossed his face. I've been expecting you? And that was it. I left the doll with him, drove back home, and tried to put the whole thing behind me. But when I passed by his shop the next day, I noticed something strange. A faint glow coming from the windows. It was an unnatural, eerie light. I tried to push it out of my mind. But now, every time I walk into my shop, I can still feel it. The weight in the air, the unsettling presence. The laughter, faint but ever-present, following me wherever I go. And the worst part? I still catch a glimpse of red eyes in the corner of my vision. Sometimes, maybe the curse wasn't meant for the shop after all. Maybe it was meant for me. Aisle 13. Hi, my name is Ryan Teller, and this is my story. I never thought I'd end up working nights at Harlan's department store, chasing ghosts from my past. But aisle 13 changed everything, and it's still not done with me. When I started, the manager, Miss Kessler, pulled me aside and said, "Stock your sections, don't sleep in the break room, and stay the hell away from aisle 13. Her voice was sharp, and her eyes flicked to a faded photo on her desk. A girl, maybe 6, holding a doll with Emily 1983 scrawled on the frame. I laughed, thinking it was a rookie prank. Aisle 13? Who skips from 12 to 14? But that first night, wandering the dim floor, I saw it, or didn't. At the store's far end was a gated section, chain-locked, lights off, with a red sign. Do not enter, storage area closed. No aisle 13. Just a shadowed gap that felt alive. The store was a relic. Fluorescent lights buzzed like wasps. The AC wheezed, blowing cold then stale. Every few hours the intercom spat garbled whispers, like a voice trapped in static, creepy, but I chalked it up to the overnight grind. I've always been drawn to the strange, ever since my sister Lily vanished when I was 10. She wandered off at a fair, chasing a shiny friend she swore was calling her. We never found her. Maybe that's why I didn't run from Harlan's weirdness. Maybe I was chasing Lily's shadow. My coworker, Shane, was the only other soul on shift. Ex-con, chain smoker, acting tough to hide his scars. One night he caught me eyeing the gate. "Don't," he growled, lighting a cigarette against the rules. "You'll regret it." "Who's back there?" I asked, leaning on a shelf. He exhaled, eyes haunted. In '83, a girl disappeared in that aisle. Emily Carter. My cousin. I was supposed to watch her. I looked away for one damn second. His voice broke. They found her doll, melted like it had been burned. Aisle's been locked since, but she's still there. You'll hear her. He rubbed a palm-shaped burn scar on his hand, fingers trembling. I wanted to call it a tall tale, but his pain was raw. It stirred memories of Lily, her laugh, her stories of friends nobody saw. 2 weeks in, things got weirder. The inventory system logged items that didn't exist. Every night, 3 or 4 dolls appeared. No SKU, no details, just Porcelain Girl, 1983 edition. A glitch, I thought, until I found one. It sat on a shelf in the girls' clothing section, staring. Cracked porcelain face, blue eyes too bright, scorched pink dress. Nobody could have put it there, I'd been alone. I showed Shane, and his face drained of color. "Toss it in the returns bin," he said, voice tight. "Don't touch it more than you need to." I did. The next night it was back. Same shelf. Same unblinking stare. I couldn't let it go. Lily's disappearance, Shane's story, it felt connected. I started recording, setting my phone up with the camera on the aisle 13 gate. Hours of nothing, just shelves and cold air. Then at 3:12 a.m. the gate rattled, once, twice. It swung open, chains still locked, like something was inviting me in. I watched the footage 10 times, heart hammering. I showed Shane. He froze, then whispered, "She's playing again, like with me." He confessed he'd tried to find Emily as a teen, sneaking into aisle 13. He heard her voice, felt her tiny hand burn his skin. He barely got out. "Emily Carter," he said. 6 years old. Black Friday, '83. I was there. She walked into that aisle, then nothing. Just her doll, half melted on a burn mark. Employees quit after. Customers said dolls moved. One mom's kid met a girl with glass eyes who wanted to go home. The store sealed the aisle, but the dolls kept coming. I should have walked away. But Emily's story echoed Lily's. Another girl lost to something nobody could explain. I had to know. So one night, just before 3 a.m., I brought bolt cutters. Shane grabbed my arm, eyes wild. Don't. You let her see you, she remembers. She doesn't forgive being forgotten. I learned that. He showed me the burn scar again, shaking. I pulled free, my need for answers stronger than fear. I thought I was brave. I cut the chain. The doors opened like they'd been waiting. Inside was freezing, the air heavy. The lights dimmed as I stepped in, and dust coated every shelf, undisturbed but for my footprints. The dolls, dozens of them. Porcelain faces, some pristine, some cracked, some scorched, staring with furious eyes. They weren't toys, they were something else. I kept walking, though my gut screamed to stop. The aisle twisted, bending impossibly, like it folded inward. At the end was a charred floor patch, and one doll alone. Blackened dress, claw-like hands, but her face, perfect. Blue eyes, faint smile, almost alive. Her head tilted. I swear I felt Lily in that moment. I stumbled back, and the other dolls, they'd moved. Inches closer, blocking the exit. Their eyes tracked me. Do you want to play with me? A child's voice, soft, everywhere. I ran. The aisle stretched, shelves warping. Dolls giggled, their porcelain fingers scraping wood. Shane's voice cut through. He'd followed, bolt cutters raised, swinging at the air like he could fight her. Go! He shouted, shoving me toward the gate. A doll lunged, its tiny hand grazing his arm, leaving a fresh burn. He screamed but kept swinging, buying me time. I don't know how we escaped. I woke in the stockroom, nose bleeding, dust on my skin. Shane was beside me, panting, his arm blistered. My phone was dead, footage gone. I showed Miss Kessler the cloud-saved video. Her face stayed blank, but her fingers traced the Emily 1983 on the photo's frame. You faked it, she said, too calm. Mention this again, you're fired. As I turned to leave, I saw her slide a porcelain doll into her desk drawer, its blue eyes glinting. I quit the next day. I thought that was the end. I thought we'd escaped. But last week, an ad for Harlan's spring toy line popped up on my feed. I paused it and saw her. A doll with blue eyes, burnt dress. Her face, it was mine. Subtle, but I knew. I zoomed in, watched it 10 times. Nobody else would see it, but I did. The camera panned across the toy aisle. For a second, I saw the gate to aisle 13, slightly open. She's still there, and she remembers us,